My name is Nelson Chu. I'm the founder and CEO of Cadence. And so we are a investment platform for tokenized alternative assets. And so our focus is on essentially using blockchain technology to open up opportunities for investment that normally would never be available to people, right, on a very, very small dollar scale. And so our operations through distributed ledger technology are extremely efficient, right? And so that means that what normally a hedge fund or a family office would go into in terms of these unique opportunities, we make that available, and we make it available at $500, for example. And so these are really high yield, short duration opportunities, so you can actually make up to 2% every 45 to 60 days on very, very, not completely no risk investments, but lower risk investments based on how we securitize and found them. So yeah. Yes, yeah. Born in New Jersey, moved very far away to New York. So yeah. Yeah, so this business is the combination of all of my past lives come together. So I used to work in finance. I was at Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, BlackRock. At BlackRock, I was in fixed income portfolio management, so I got good exposure to debt, right, and sort of corporate debt at the very least. Left that to do my own company. It wasn't this yet. And so my own company was actually a strategy consulting firm that helped companies, startups, build from the ground up, right? And so we specialized in product, marketing, branding, engineering, strategy, everything. And so we focused on super talented founders that we believed in their thesis, we believed that they can pull it off, and we helped them do all the things they need, from launching to fundraising to just general business strategy. And so I was very fortunate to meet a good friend of mine now. His name is Zach Prince. He's the CEO of BlockFi. And so they are a crypto lending company. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They raise money from Galaxy, Consensus, and everything. And so he came to me early on in BlockFi days, and I was like, I love everything about what you're doing, and so let me know how I can help. And so we worked together, my former consulting team and him, to at least get the foundation in place for BlockFi. And now they've done phenomenally well. They're bigger than my consulting company ever was, and so that's fantastic. So he got me into blockchain. I have him to thank for all that. And so as we were doing some blockchain consulting in early 2018, we started to see the ICO market change, right? And so things started to get a little bit dicey, and so we're trying to figure out what's next. And security tokens were definitely sort of the next wave, right? And we started to see what everyone else was tokenizing. It was a little bit strange. There were people tokenizing real estate, which is extremely complicated to do right now. And it's not, there's not a lot of smart contracts in the world that can facilitate all the nuances behind a real estate transaction. There were people tokenizing companies, which also was a little bit strange. People have tried to offer trading on startups, and it just didn't always work, unless you were essentially a pre-IPO startup. No point, right? And so no one was looking at debt, and that's when we saw, look, I came from a debt background, my co-founder came from a finance background, our other two early founding members came from finance. So we have 50 plus years of finance between us, among 4 people. I have the least amount of finance. But that was an opportunity that we saw, that we said we can own this space. And so we focused on, because security tokens were very new, we wanted to make sure that we created and picked an asset that was very trustworthy. And so what we have at the beginning, day one, is CPG, or consumer packaged goods, specialty finance, right? So essentially, let's say Whole Foods or Target or Costco wants to buy granola bars from this company, right? That granola bar company has never seen a Whole Foods sized order in their entire life. They don't have that money in the bank to do it, right? So they go to partners of ours to try and get that money. And our partners vet everything about Whole Foods, about the brand, about the manufacturing, the shipping, all that stuff. And they pass it along to us, and we say, yeah, I like this. So we take that and syndicate that out to our investor population. And now, because of the type of transaction that it is, it's super high yield, it's that up to 2%, it's under 60 days. And so we can build trust with our user base and our investor base, when the reality is nobody's actually done security tokenization at scale yet, that you need to actually build that trust with that population. So that's been our focus on day one, and we go to longer and longer, bigger assets later on. It's going to take a little bit of time. So actually what I spoke about today was really that there's been a lot of interest in security tokens, but it's a lot harder to do than it looks. There's a lot of rules involved that go into it, right? And so what we essentially help facilitate is helping companies and brands and people navigate that market, right? And so we make it so that you can almost do like a security token in a box. You come to us and we'll take care of it for you, as long as it's the type of assets that we know how to do. I think the biggest hurdle towards getting security tokenization to where I think it can be is institutional support, right? So getting major hedge funds, pension funds, endowments, all these guys involved, right? And they need a whole slew of other different requirements than what you and I would need as a retail investor, right? And so our job is to make all of that infrastructure possible for them, so that ultimately they'll be able to say, oh, I found this asset, I like this asset, I'm going to invest in it. And that's when you start moving hundreds of millions of dollars at one time versus here's 50K or here's 100K. It's very, very different. It's going to come down to, I think, a couple factors. One of them is where we are in the economic cycle. And so I think the global economy has kind of been overheated for a while. So I think there's going to be some sort of recession coming down the line, right? And so that's going to impact a lot of these things, right? I believe that cryptocurrencies are probably correlated with the market. So when the market goes down, it's a risky investment, right? Yeah. Still. And so crypto likely will take a little bit of a dip from that as well. And so what happens for all these different types of assets that are out there that are looking for funding and looking for financing? I'd like to think that for us and what we're doing, because it's debt, it tends to be uncorrelated. Like for example, Whole Foods is still going to make purchases, right, of this type of stuff. People are still going to need capital ahead of getting paid by a big brand for an invoice. So all that stuff is going to be there still. And so I think we can be a big player in this space to make and help the security token market mature no matter what type of economic cycle we're in. But to your point, I think in 5 years, the concept of security token or even the concept of token is going to disappear, really. It's a digital security. It's a security, but it's digitized. And so kind of get rid of that naming coming out of it, so yeah. So this is actually going back to, this is not even work related, it's not blockchain related, sorry. But I've actually been fairly involved with a lot of nonprofit work. In my life. So I've been a part of 3 nonprofits I'm really proud of. One of them is, it's all related to youth, children, and wellness. And so one of them's doing work in Africa. 2 of them are doing work in Africa. One of them is doing work in New York. And so teaching wellness education, teaching, giving healthcare, all these different things, right? And so I would love nothing else than for Cadence to be successful, and then for me to be able to spend more time on that, because we are going to be entering a very interesting time in the world in the coming 10, 20 years, where automation and all these other different things are going to displace a lot of people and a lot of jobs, right? So what are we going to do for a population that's not quite as fortunate as we are? And I would love to be able to have the luxury and the flexibility to be able to focus on that. As long as this goes well. If it doesn't go well, then I'm got to do another one. So yeah.